Welcome back to Beer Fueled Fantasy Football. We are on part 3 of 8 for our division breakdown series. We are kicking it off to the AFC North. I'm Nick. We've got Dan Theory across the table from me.
What's up, guys? Rocking the J-Tuck jersey. To my BFF.
And to my left, rocking a Yazoo shirt from Nashville, Tennessee, is Christopher Hopper.
How are you guys doing? Happy to be here. Happy to not be on call this week, so you won't get full frontals of me running in front of the camera every 10 minutes.
Phrasing?
Phrasing. Pro phrasing.
Not nudity, of course.
And then we've got James from the at SuperFlex Show @ James the Brain on Twitter joining us. He is a Browns fan. He's going to help us cover the AFC North today. Give us a shout out, James.
Hey, how we doing, gentlemen? Thank you guys so much for having me on. I'm excited for this.
All right. So any laments of a Browns fan you want to go through before we kick off a beer preview here?
No, I think it's kind of funny because I think I've been through the my Baker Mayfield thoughts with you guys already. So I'm gonna go ahead and bypass that and let's go, man. I'm ready. I'm digging my heels into the AFC North now, and I'm ready to talk about it.
All right. Well, let's kick off a beer preview, some news, and then we'll break down the AFC North.
I actually got really happy for a second because I was busy setting everything up, and I forgot there was a beer in front of me. And then you mentioned beer preview, and I looked over there. I'm like, oh, yeah, I have a beer. We drink beer during this show.
Only 135-ish episodes.
This is 136.
Hey, I was pretty damn close then.
Well done.
All right, so we have Great Lakes Brewing Company. It's Holy Moses White Ale. Second time for them to come on the show. They're out of Cleveland, Ohio. Last time they were on was the 2017 AFC North Division Breakdown episode.
Hey.
Look at that.
At least we're consistent.
We try.
Holy Moses White Ale is a 5.4% white ale with spices and orange peel. We'll get you a full review once we get through the first two teams of the AFC North here. But first, we had a busy news day. I thought this was going to be a pretty quiet segment until about 4 hours ago.
News. Remix.
Dan?
Me? Dad?
I don't know how a soundboard stutters, but...
It did.
You're not my dad.
All right. We're kicking it off with some suspensions first. Adam Schefter is reporting Julian Edelman is facing a 4-game suspension for violating the league's PED policy. It is currently in appeals, but it's probably going to be at best 3 games.
Yeah. So with Edelman out, I think that this is a bump to Jordan Matthews, at least during those games. Edelman will primarily play the slot. That's where Matthews is also going to run out of. He should get the majority of that work after he comes back. I would expect to see Matthews probably hit more of a Danny Amendola type of workload while Edelman returns to kind of that full thing. But I've been trying to pump Edelman up most of the offseason. So this didn't help my case. I've had a lot of swear words to say, especially after drafting him a couple places when this came out.
Yeah, I think all the receivers really get somewhat slight of a bump. You know, Chris Hogan plays on the outside. I don't know how huge of a bump he'll get, but he seems to be the clear one now, at least for the first 4 weeks. You know, Matthews has stated has been, rising up the boards now. And not just receivers, you also have the running backs. You know, James White will fill in maybe more of a passing role those first few weeks, Rex Burkhead, and even, Sonny Michel. So, love to go around.
I remember hearing that name, Edelman, back in 2016, I think. What's it? Oh, that's right. That's that guy that Tom Brady threw to all the time. It's been a while since he's been on the field. If he faces a suspension, man, I just wonder how effective he'll be when he does finally come back. And I've kind of been championing him too, and I own him all over the place. So, yeah, I had some of those same words. So I can tell you that I wasn't happy hearing this news either today.
He was so cheap, so it looks so good.
He's going to be even cheaper now.
Yeah, he's redraft especially is going to be super cheap. I was just complaining about I have no idea where Jordan Matthews is going to go. Well, for 4 weeks, I now know where Jordan Matthews is going to go, so that's kind
probably
of nice.
Probably on the field.
He'll probably get a bunch of snaps. So maybe you do an Edelman-Matthews stack.
Yeah.
And just drop Matthews after Edelman comes back if he looks okay.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad strategy for early.
So at this point, I'm not sure how else to break down the rest of the targets because Edelman is a guy who's looking at 120, 130, so that's a lot of targets to distribute. Don't think Matthews gets all of those. So probably a slight bump to all the other pass catchers, as Dan mentioned.
Hogan, Mitchell, Gronk, James White.
And hopefully Mitchell can do something with some of this extra opportunity because he's a third-year player and we want to see him break out.
Too, so, they like him enough to move Cooks.
All right. Not causing quite as much angst, but people still freaked out about this a little bit. Browns signed Duke Johnson to a 3-year extension, so he's signed now through 2021, $15.6 million. 7.7 of that is guaranteed. Don't have a breakdown of years and where the guaranteed money is yet, so I don't know where the cut or the out is. I'd guess probably 2020 is his earliest cut.
He's the 9th highest paid, at least for this season. I think most of the guaranteed money is for this year.
Well, it'd be next year because he's already signed for this year.
Next year, yeah.
It's interesting to me, though, because I think that limits Nick Chubb as kind of a 3-down back to more just a 2-down back that maybe gets some passing work, but you're still going to have to, in the long run, or at least the next 3 years, I mean, Duke Johnson's a guy that's going to command 70, 80 targets, at least.
This is probably spells in for Carlos Hyde after this season. I think they're fine going with Johnson and Chubb.
I thought the end for Carlos Hyde was already spelled out after the season, personally. But
I know, but I think this adds on.
This just shovels dirt on it.
Yeah.
What do you think, local beat reporter?
Yeah, well, actually, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I don't have too much more to add, except it'll be interesting to see if they cut bait with Hyde this year or next year. I would assume next year, but you never know. In training camp, if Chubb looks ready, maybe Hyde is someone that they wait to see a back go down and try to deal him and get something for him. It'll be interesting to see because I still really like Carlos Hyde in the right situation. I think if he ends up in a good situation where he looks like he can be the bell cow, he could succeed somewhere. So definitely someone to keep your eye on because, yeah, I think this contract extension for Duke Johnson definitely makes him a little bit more expendable for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that completely on Hyde.
And I mean, from my perspective, I think Chubb is a slightly better Hyde and he's 6 years younger. So, I mean, from their perspective, they can probably get rid of Hyde. And for Hyde, I'd love him to go anywhere where he's even on the plus side of a timeshare.
Yep.
At this point, over what he's going to have now, where he's going to get, 30 to 40% of touches? It's going to be ugly.
Yeah, it's going to be.
Something like
that.
that.
That sounds about right.
All right. Referencing our AFC East episode, just fourth-rounder tight end Chris Herndon got arrested for a DUI just before dawn on Saturday, June 2nd, after causing a major accident in New Jersey. I'm not sure how they could tell, but that's what happened.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea.
It's going to have no redraft value, but
He really,
Dynasty, we all like him. I mean, he was, the main yak tight end guy for Miami when he was there.
I mean, we thought he was okay. This wasn't a great start.
This is a bad start. He's not Robbie Anderson yet, so he can't go and do this stupid shit. So,
yeah.
All right,
I agree with all that.
But yeah, Leggett probably gets a leg up on that one, and then Kareem.
Nick's been sitting on that one
I
day.
see what you did there.
And then last bit of news is Kareem Hunt was involved in an incident where he punched somebody in the face in Ohio.
That's good.
And this is the second physical altercation he's been in this offseason.
Is it?
Is it?
Yeah, he shoved a woman a few months back.
Seems like a poor idea.
Seems like he's on the wrong team in the AFC West.
Raiders.
Yeah. Just kidding, Raiders fans. Just kidding. From what I heard, there's no charges being pressed or anything like that, so I don't know if anything comes of this, but it's kind of a bad pattern that he's involved in these incidents. Yeah,
I would agree with that. Not a good thing.
Yeah,
maybe he was slightly
it's
jealous.
alarming, that's for sure. I mean, you're right, though. From what I hear and from what I've read, it seems like, there's not going to be any charges filed, but you never know with Roger Goodell when he decides, he's going to independently look into something like this. So it's not good. It's alarming, and it's definitely a trend that I'd try to avoid. I'm really high on Kareem Hunt, and I think after this news, being that it's the second time that something like this has happened, I might be looking to deal him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but as the rule's always, never trade him immediately after bad news. Wait a few weeks for this to calm down.
Wait until we see more.
Got it. You nailed it. You're absolutely right.
All right. Shall we get into our division breakdowns?
Division Preview.
All right. So as we established with last week's episodes, we're going to do this in order, what we predicted them to finish. The Steelers are going to win this division, clean sweep for all of our rankings. Then it starts to get interesting. Browns and Ravens actually tied in terms of the number of second place votes. Ravens win the tiebreaker, though, so they come in second. Browns are third. Bengals bringing up the rear. So let's kick it off first with the Steelers. I think this is actually probably one of the easiest teams to kind of look at from a fantasy perspective because there's a bunch of names you know, and then there's really not much else here. Just let you guys kick it off here. What do we think of the major weapons for the Steelers? So starting with Ben, Bell, Brown, and JuJu.
So Bell, we touched on him a couple weeks ago. His run efficiency was the worst last year that it's ever been. His yards per reception was down year over year. Breakaway runs also down. Pretty bad against stacked fronts, but he gets so much volume and he's used so much in the passing game that he's guaranteed to be a top 3 running back, regardless of what that efficiency looks like. He was last year.
I mean, he's led the last 2 seasons in opportunity share. It was 89.3% this year, and it was an insane 95.1% last year. So he's not going to not get touches. I mean, that's his game. So
And this should be his last year in Pittsburgh, so they're
going
going
to
to feed him
fucking ground this year.
There you go.
450 touches.
Yep.
Easy.
Anything on, I still heard you start to talk, James. Anything on Bell?
No, you guys nailed it, man. That's exactly what I was going to say, is that this is likely his last year in town. They're going to run him into the ground. I mean, they have nothing to lose. They're not going to care about his value moving forward. So, yeah, you guys nailed it. That's exactly what I was going to say, is that I expect to have one last really good year and then be out the door in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I do too. Brown, you know what you're going to get. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on him. I mean, anybody have any reserves about Brown?
No, he's my
wide
receiver 1.
He's basically the Aaron Rodgers of wide receivers. You're going to get a top 3 finish out of him if he stays healthy.
And unlike Rodgers, he stays healthy.
Yeah, maybe JuJu steals a little bit more, just given how efficient he was with his numbers last year, and just how ridiculous of a QB rating he gave Big Ben, which is like 130 something. It was insane.
Taking 80-yard touchdowns to the house helps.
Yeah, he's just ultra efficient from the slot too. I mean, he's one of the bigger slot receivers in the league.
JuJu?
Yeah.
Yeah, so JuJu, I think he stands to see a bit of a target increase, but there's one narrative I've heard a lot that bothers me. And it bothers me because of how just kind of inaccurate it is. I've heard plenty of places, well, he performed when Brown wasn't on the field. He performed when Brown wasn't on the field. Well, yeah, he did perform when Brown wasn't on the field. So I went and looked at JuJu outside of those last 3 weeks when, Brown went down, early in week 15.
Yep.
And so first off, JuJu, weeks 2 through 10, after he saw 0 targets in week 1, but prior to his week 11 suspension, with Antonio Brown, was a wide receiver 18. He saw 7+ targets a game the second half of last year before Brown's injury. So his success and what he was doing was not tied to whether Antonio Brown was or was not on the field. It was tied to him playing well, earning his way onto the field, earning that target share away from Martavis Bryant, whose 80 targets are vacated this year. So I think he stands to see a little bit of a bump and probably closer to what he was seeing at the second half of last year is in terms of a targets per game basis. He's solidly a wide receiver 2 for me.
I mean, you got an offense that's going to probably end up being in at least top 10 in passing attempts. This defense isn't quite what it's been, in the earlier part of the decade and in the early 2000s, late 2000s. So there's going to be a lot of throwing here. Big Ben was a QB1 the last, 10 weeks of the season, something like that. As soon as the defense sucked, everything flipped on its head, and it was the Bell, Brown, JuJu, and Ben show, and that's what it's going to be this year.
All right, so we've gone through 3 players here. I haven't heard a single ranking. I've heard a tier of somebody. Put some rankings to these guys. I already put Antonio Brown's my 1. Where do you guys have him at?
1.
Yeah, 1.
Sweep it.
Yeah.
I have him at 2.
Actually, yeah.
Ooh, who's your 1 then?
He is my 2. Hopkins is my 1.
Okay.
Hopkins is my 1 as well, yeah.
That's the only other player I've seen in conversation for it. I still would take Brown. I think he's a little safer. And on a points per game basis, last year he was better. He came in at 22 versus 20.8 in a PPR format.
Yeah, he also had the same quarterback all
Hopkins
year.
is actually safer than Brown probably is. Like just looking at what he did from wide receiver 1 performances and 2. I know the Ballers alluded to this when they went over their wide receiver rankings towards the end, but Hopkins was consistently putting up, 5-6 receptions, 80-something yards, and a touchdown. It was insane what he did.
His numbers were nuts.
But Brown's gonna.
We've seen Brown do this for
I just
5
like the
straight years
Steelers'
now.
offense more so than anything.
Well, if something happens to Ben, then what does that do to Brown? Whereas with Hopkins, we already know.
If it's not Osweiler, Hopkins is fine.
All right, and then JuJu, where do you guys have him at?
Go ahead, Dan, because my rankings are not as solid
He's
as
my
I would like
21
them to be right now.
All right, I got him at 22, so I'm right there with you. I got him as a back end 2. If I can get him as my 3, I'm stoked. If he's my 2, I'm okay.
His ADP right now is the 407 in PPR league. So
I will not have him as my 3.
He's going as mainly one of the higher end wide receiver 2s on teams.
James, by the way, I know we're talking a lot. You got to jump in, by the way, if you got something to say. We're really bad at calling on people.
No, you guys are good, man. Everything I was going to say, you guys are nailing. So I feel like I'm contributing next to nothing because you guys are so good at nailing everything I was going to say. But no, real quick with JuJu, I'll just tell you, I think I have him at 19. So I'm kind of a little lower on him. I have him as kind of a low end wide receiver too, but I definitely feel like he can move up, and I think he will eventually. But I don't know if this is the year that I trust him to do that. So we'll see.
Yeah, he came in at 12th for points per game last year at 14.7, but last year was also really weird for wide receivers where scoring was just down across the board. I think that corrects a little bit this year, and he's probably going to be more of a solid wide receiver 2 than a 1 again.
Where do you guys have Big Ben ranked? Because we know where Bell's going to be ranked. Where's Big Ben?
10th.
I have him at 11.
I have him at 13.
Okay.
I have him way too early at 9.
That's fair, though.
Yeah.
I mean
what
what he did last year was insane.
That
towards the end.
9 through like 18 range is just a mess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's that home road split early, especially early last year, was really annoying.
There's 60 yards a game difference between his home numbers and his road numbers.
Yeah, it gets bad, and I think it's like 3/4 of a touchdown too.
Yep.
So yeah, you're losing at least 5 points a game between the two.
He's almost in there, but he's not quite there.
Yeah, so I like him a lot this year. I don't think the defense is going to be that great, so he may be more shootout Ben mode, which is what you want. But
Yeah.
I'm a little worried about that. And then Bell, I assume, is top 3 for everybody.
He's my 1 because of volume. That's pretty much it.
He's my 1 as well.
All right, I got him down at 3 just because of some of the efficiency concerns, but I know the volume's going to be there. So as long as he's healthier, doesn't get caught smoking weed again, he'll be fine. All right, the only other names I wanted to really touch on here, James Conner. What do you think of him as a handcuff?
I still think he's one of the better handcuffs in the league if he's, gets a chance ever if something happens to Bell, if Bell holds out into the season.
I mean, I think if Bell gets hurt, it's him and Jalen Samuels. If Samuels remains a running back, I think he gets potential pass catching work out of the backfield. That's what they're going to use.
Have you seen a few depth charts listing him as a fullback now?
Connor?
Samuels.
Oh.
Samuels? Yes, I have.
I have not.
And I think
Interesting.
it's probably about right for Samuels.
I think it'll be a fullback. It'll be a move tight end out of the backfield type situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Red Ellison.
Use check.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about Connor. I mean, when he did see, I really liked him coming out of Pitt, but when he did see action last year, he didn't seem very effective. His yards per carry, I believe, were pretty low too. So I'd like to see a better showing this year.
I mean,
he's gonna,
it wasn't that much worse than Bell, though.
Yeah, Bell's wasn't great either. I think they just, as a whole, had some problems running between the tackles.
Oh, okay. So Bell just kind of got the volume to make.
Yeah,
up
he
for
was
it.
he was below 4, wasn't he? He was like 3.8,
I think he was
3.9.
3.9.
Who?
Bell.
No, Bell was at exactly 4 yards per carry.
Yeah, it was the worst year of his career, I think, since his rookie season at least.
It was. Yeah.
All right. And then James Washington. Do we see anything for him coming in as a rookie?
Not other than just kind of, you could see him in maybe that 50 target range. Not enough to be fantasy relevant, though. And I know you were on board with me on this, Nick, but I just really didn't like his NFL prospects coming out, and I really don't like him as a Martavis Bryant replacement.
I think for what you're getting from him, I mean, it depends how the offense shapes up. Like if it's more, pass heavy, Washington could see an uptick, but not enough to be fantasy relevant. He's good at stacking. He's good at being a downfield threat, but that's against college defenders and against college defenses like the Big 12, where he's not going to see that same level of competition.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you guys on Washington. I wasn't very high on him coming out. I think this is a nice landing spot. I know that he's going to be a wide receiver 3 kind of, he's kind of pitch and hold as that Martavius Bryant type guy. He's going to be that deep threat. I think that's where he excels, though. So I'm a little bit higher on him just based on landing spot than I was previously pre-draft. But I think you're right. I think he definitely has some limited upside. He's not going to see a ton of targets, at least this year. I don't feel.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And what I didn't like on tape is he was a deep threat, but it was a different type of deep threat. I didn't see him separating that much, so much as I did running down the field and gaining position on the defensive back. And I think he's going to have a harder time doing that in the NFL.
He's basically Torrey Smith.
Yeah, it was some fun tape to watch for him, but I just don't know how he does in the NFL against NFL cornerbacks.
It's a wait and see. We'll see how Pittsburgh uses him.
All right, and then to wrap this up, the tight ends, Jesse James and Vance McDonald. Are you putting your money on either one? I know McDonald's the one that seems to be getting the more hype.
Until he gets hurt.
Vance McDonald's been hyped the last 3 seasons. Give me Jesse James if I have to.
Donald's missed 11 games in 2 seasons, and people are hyping him because he had 16 targets against Jacksonville in the AFC Championship game. He's getting hyped as a starter right now, but Jesse James had, I think, or at least one or two double-digit target games. They both kind of fill the Heath Miller role. So who's ever the healthiest and whoever looks good that game, you can't start either of them though.
It's tight end by committee. I don't want one.
I'm going to feel like a sucker here because I'm going to buy the Vance McDonald.
That's good.
I'm going to buy it based on my co-host, Travis Rasmussen at Travis NFL. He's really been championing Vance McDonald lately. And really, you look at his athletic profile when he came out, and he is just,
he's insane.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, when you look at athletically how he projects, he should be an excellent tight end, but like you guys have said, he hasn't stayed healthy, and health is a huge issue with him. If he does stay healthy, which I know is a huge if because it's been a few years and we still haven't seen that, but if he does, I definitely feel like he has some high upside. So I'm going to buy a little bit of the Vance McDonald based on his ADP because he's right now. I mean, you can get him basically for free. I mean, this is a guy who you could probably take in your last round, depending on, how deep your draft is. But definitely late round, you don't have to invest a lot to get him, and he could be a high ceiling guy. So I'm going to buy Vance McDonald a little bit here.
If I was taking one, I do agree with you. It would be McDonald. I don't want really either one just because the target volume is probably not going to be there with both of them seeing the field. But McDonald has the athletic upside, so if I'm taking a shot at one and I'm that desperate, he's the one I'm going to take a swing at. He's 24th for me in my rankings. I didn't rank James. All right, that wraps it up for the Pittsburgh Steelers. What do you think for final record on these guys?
Probably 10-6, 11-5, somewhere in there. I didn't get a look at it and break it down.
I just guessed. I put 10-6, but I didn't, go into depth with. I haven't looked at their schedule or anything like that.
Offense is good enough, but been on the road, and then the defense, especially with no Shazier.
All right, I said 12-4 just because I think they're going to run roughshod over the division, and
they probably will. I just don't want to believe it yet.
Yeah, I as a Browns fan, I admitted kind of that I felt like they would go 5-1 at worst in that division, so I have them at 11-5.
See, right. I could easily see them going 4-2 in the division too. I could see the Ravens stealing one and the Browns picking up a statement win.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Browns picking up a statement win.
Browns will get a few of those this year.
Yeah, they will.
All right. On to the Baltimore Ravens. We have them pegged at 2 here, but it's kind of a mess once you get past the Steelers. I think even as a Ravens homer, Dan would admit that.
Oh, it's massive. Like I pegged them at 9-7. That's strictly because of Homer. Like I could see them going 8-8. That'd be my best guess. It'd be 7-9, 8-8. But I can definitely see your guys' 6-10s, and it just depends on how the offense fluids because the defense will be fine this year.
If they miss the playoffs, does Harbaugh get fired?
He's been on the hot seat, kind of. It's been lukewarm the last couple seasons, but
he got heated seats in his car.
Yeah, like
in Baltimore.
His Range Rover is now feeling really comfortable during the wintertime.
Yes, but it'll be too comfortable if they.
If he struggles again, if the team struggles again, yes, I think he'll be in the hot seat.
The wire will melt through and be exposed.
I love this show, The Wire.
For split second, when I didn't pick up what he was talking about. All right. Moving on to the Ravens, though, let's first talk about Joe Flacco, as ugly as this is. Finished 37th in points per game at the quarterback position last year.
It's one of his worst years, which, granted, the difference between his worst and his best is not all that much.
Outside of playoff Joe, yeah.
He's super elite. So.
He does have slightly better weapons this year. Slightly.
It's better. It's not, in my mind, it's a lot better, but in terms of fantasy-wise, it's only good for one receiver.
Joe Flacco is a good enough quarterback to give you a receiver and a tight end that's relevant, and he won't be relevant himself, but he can give you some relevant pieces.
He'll have like 1 or 2 good streaming weeks, and then you'll hate when you play him when he puts up like 5 points.
Your quarterback
do.
will get hurt, and you'll run with Joe Flacco the rest of the year.
All right. So we're not loving Joe Flacco. I assume, James, you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah.
Even in Superflex?
Even in Superflex, yeah, I'm taking. And this is gonna hurt. If anyone knows me, they're gonna know that this is gonna hurt for me to say. I would take Blake Bortles over Joe Flacco.
Oh, that's not even close
No,
for me.
exactly.
No, that's far and along the right decision.
Yeah, I have so many people that I know that I communicate with on a regular basis that are Blake Bortles truthers. So I have to be the anti Blake Bortles guy, and so it's hard for me to admit that. I'm going to hear a bunch of flack when people hear this. They're going to know.
I see what you did there, Flacco.
Flacco, yeah.
There's
All
been a
right,
lot of
good. I'm
puns
glad you guys
today.
got that. All right.
And by the way, I am. You can add me to that list of Blake Bortles truthers.
Probably on all of us, kind of.
He'll be wearing the Bortles jersey when we record the AFC South episode.
There's a Blake Bortles fathead on the shelf behind me, or not fathead, Funko on the shelf behind me.
Oh, man. All right. Now I know.
All right. Now let's get into the speculation time. If Flacco gets benched or hurt, what do we think of Lamar Jackson?
I like
Does
him
he
more.
get the first crack at it?
Yeah, with Ryan Mallett.
RG3.
Yeah, so Lamar Jackson.
I got to throw a little bit of fun in there.
I don't think RG3 makes the team.
I think he does because he'll be a good teacher for Jackson in terms of being a mobile quarterback and
They
all
don't
that
they don't keep
transition.
three quarterbacks though.
It won't be Ryan Mallett. That dude's fucking garbage. So yeah,
No,
it'll be
no,
Jackson
they don't
taking him.
keep three. It's going to be Flacco and Jackson, I think.
Maybe they do.
I think they
In
keep
the
three.
interest of Lamar Jackson, maybe they get rid of their seventh running back and keep a third quarterback.
But
Terrence
maybe
West
they
is
need
fine.
all seven running backs.
Yeah, they might.
Terrence West is finally gone.
So I did rank Lamar Jackson. I don't think he sees the field this year unless Flacco gets hurt or the Ravens completely implode, though. I think they do try to keep Flacco out there as long as possible.
I think that if Flacco gets hurt, Lamar Jackson and his legs become very intriguing, if anything.
It's like,
Strictly for his legs, not worried about his arm.
no one cares about his upper body. It's all about lower body this time.
No,
I'm not even starting Lamar Jackson. I'm starting Lamar Jackson's legs.
I think his arm's going to lag behind what his athleticism can do, and he's going to be that type of quarterback early in his career, and then the throwing's going to have to come along with it. But if he gets on the field, I think that he runs well enough to keep him relevant.
It's going to be like Deshaun Kaiser. I think for me, like you may not get the massive interception rate that Kaiser put up, but I think Jackson will be more known for his rushing ability instead of throwing for 250 and 2.
See, I was leaning more Tyrod Taylor.
That too, but I wanted to go with the rookie last year.
Hey, Kaiser put up 17.4 points per game last year.
He
as
gave you
quarterback.
QB 1 week, so I'm just saying that's why.
and that was with all those interceptions. And you know what? Still better than Joe Flacco.
It hurts. I know. I'm just kidding.
All right. Moving on to running backs here. Alex Collins is going to get top billing on this team for the moment. He was 22nd in points per game last season, but he was trending upward through the whole year, and by the end he was looking like he could be a true running back one. What do you guys think of Collins? Where do you got him in your rankings?
Am I the only one that sees this kind of being a Murray McKinnon type of thing with Collins and Kenneth Dixon, as long as Kenneth Dixon keeps his nose out of trouble?
I mean,
And his knees intact?
And his knees intact, yeah. I mean, I kind of see it going that route. Because you're right, Alex Collins was amazing. Had a great breakaway rate, great juke innovation numbers. He's exceptional against light, stacked, and
you're like reading my notes.
base front. But
Stop cheating off Dan.
yeah, the one thing that he kind of lacks though is that receiving game. But Kenneth Dixon also, when he was given the chance, has flashed the ability to be an okay enough runner and great in space. So I could almost see this being like maybe not the same volume, but Latavius Murray, Jerick McKinnon type thing from last year.
So Dixon on even weeks.
Yes.
Okay.
No odd weeks.
Yeah.
Odd week. I'm sorry.
You got to
odd
copy
weeks.
the homework, but change it up a little
That's
bit.
right.
It's odd weeks.
So Collins was PFF's fourth ranked running back last year. It was 87.6. As Hopper alluded to all the great stats from before, he was also 11th best in just yards per carry as well. He finished, I think, as a RB2, but in the last, I think starting week 8 against Miami, he was the RB8 in PPR, leagues. So I think he's going to be fine. I have him ranked 20th. The ADP is the 402,
Yeah,
which is
Feels a little pricey.
it feels pricey, but I don't have a lot of faith in Dixon because he's showing no faith outside of when he plays, which is 6 games.
So this is on a tangent. Who do you have more faith in, Kenneth Dixon or CJ Prosise, who just got some hype today?
CJ Prosise.
Ooh.
I hate Rashad Penny more than I hate Alex Collins.
I
That's
think
what that's based on.
I think Collins is a better receiver than Rashad Penny, so I'm going to go with Hopper and say Prosise.
He's definitely a better blocker.
He's definitely a better blocker. Because Collins isn't a terrible pass catcher. They just didn't really throw to running back towards the end of last year. I mean, Buck Allen, who was the pass catching back, had 1 reception, I think, each game towards the end of the season. Collins had 2 to 4, so it's not like they're getting a lot of volume there anyways.
No, not a ton, but I don't think that they stick with Dixon throw the crap.
We get you back, James?
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
You're good.
It's all good. I don't think that they stick with Dixon through all the crap without and don't use him. So
They love
I've got
him.
Alex Collins at 23. Keep in mind these are my way too early rankings. This is before I go through and project everybody out. This is just kind of a feel ranking. So you may slide up or down, by 5-6 spots. But
You're only 3 spots behind me, so I mean we're in the same vein. He's a low end RB2.
I got him right behind Lamar Miller.
Yep. I've got him at 17th, but he may slide slightly.
Yeah, I think I have him in the same, right around the early 20 range. But let me ask you guys, based on opportunity cost and what they're going to cost, would you rather have Alex Collins or would you rather have Kenneth Dixon? I personally, before you answer, I think I'd rather have Dixon just because of where he's going and what I can get him for. And if I see that committee type approach, I think I'd rather have him. What about you guys?
Well, Dixon's ADP is a 1405, so pretty much late
Not
in
drafted.
stash. She's pretty much going to be not drafted or drafted or towards the end of your redraft.
Now, that's before any possible preseason hype trains, but
There will be preseason hype trains around Dixon. I
Well,
promise that.
in a vacuum, it's Dixon, but a lot of those two will depend on team structure. If I go, for whatever reason, wide receiver heavy, if I'm picking it, maybe towards the back half of the second, but not at the turn, and I grab a wide receiver, or back half of the first, and I grab a wide receiver at a running back, and I need my second running back. Alex Collins is a guy who I am looking at around his ADP just because of the volume may be there. Now, do I like him more than Lamar Miller there? No, just because I know what Lamar Miller's volume is going to be. But I like him kind of in that same vein of, all right, well, I need a running back, and everything's going running back heavy, so most of them are gone.
Yeah.
yeah, and by the point when in the draft where you're having to decide to take Alex Collins, you're not going to know where Kenneth Dixon's going to fall. So it's tough to kind of make that call ahead of time. At the value, obviously, of course, I would take Dixon in the 14th. Like if I'm taking him like as the last pick before I go defense kicker, but
I've already got defense kicker by that point.
Jay Tuck.
Pretty interesting, though.
Round 9.
Real quick, in a redraft, you could really end up with both those guys, and the opportunity cost doesn't cost you much with Kenneth Dixon being that late. And really, you could get both parts of that committee. So that's kind of an interesting thought, with Baltimore being a run-heavy team. I know they signed some receivers in the offseason, and we'll kind of get to that. But that's an interesting prospect to me to be able to have both those guys just in case,
Woo, strategy.
all right.
Yes.
Shall we get to those receivers, by the way?
So let's go.
All right, so the big 3 names are going to be Michael Crabtree, Willie Snead, and John Brown running out of the slot. Rashad Perryman is there still somehow. I think he'll probably
He'll
get
get cut
before training
You
camp.
think Brown plays out of the slot over Snead?
That's how they currently have it on their depth chart.
Okay.
I think that Brown probably plays the other outside spot personally, but
That's what he normally played. But either way,
either way, here's how I feel about this. Number one wide receivers in this office tend to thrive on volume. They usually end up at about 120 plus targets. It's a near lock for that role. That's Crabtree's role, in my opinion.
not even close.
Yeah, I think the
Totally is.
worst the number one receiver in that offense has had is 92 targets in the last 5 years. The interesting thing about Crabtree, though, his production premium was actually higher last year than the year before, which really blew my mind. But his separation and some of his other metrics were a little bit down. He's kind of a cautious, I went running back heavy type of wide receiver play. But I think he'll have the volume there, and I think he'll have the opportunity to kind of give it a last hurrah like we saw Steve Smith do in Baltimore and some other guys to be in that mid to high wide receiver too.
Speaking of Steve Smith and high volume, his first year with Baltimore, 134 targets.
Yep.
You go back, look at Anquan Bolden, who averaged 109 targets those 3 seasons with Baltimore. His highest was 112. I mean, he's going to get at least 120 targets if he stays healthy. John Brown, I like in like deep leagues as maybe a deep stash just because if he stays healthy, he can be utilized as a deep threat with Flacco's huge fucking arm. I don't have a lot of faith in Snead, but
see, I'm the opposite, and James, I want your thoughts on this too. So Snead is a year removed, basically a suspension, kind of injury riddled year away, removed from having two pretty solid fantasy seasons. He ends up with some fresh scenery in an area where you've got John Brown that can't stay healthy, Brashad Perriman who's done nothing, and then a bunch of rookies.
yeah,
And your number 2 receiver in this offense is usually worth about 80 targets or so. So my thought on Snead is that his current ADP is nearly undrafted.
they're both undrafted right now.
So my thought on Snead is that if I need a dart throw, he's one of my favorites.
I got both him and Brown ranked pretty much in the same spot. I made both notes saying that I think there's some deep stash value to him in deeper leagues. So
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think Snead really just kind of the coaching staff lost faith in him obviously after that 4-game suspension, and then he had to work through an injury last year. I think last year was just a mess for Willie Snead, but I think we've seen some potential out of him, and I think in this offense he could definitely be that guy who ends up getting some of those targets from Flacco. I think somewhere around 70 to 80 targets is a reasonable expectation for him. Now, John Brown, to me, worries me a little bit just because, I mean, then you have the sickle cell, and he's got some other health issues too, where it just seems like, there's always something kind of keeping him off the field. He definitely has that high upside, and I think he has a role, but I think his role is more of a deep threat. So depending on what I'm looking for, if I'm looking for a consistent contributor, a guy who I think could get me 5 to 6 receptions a game, I think I'd take Willie Snead. However, if I'm looking for a guy who I think, can give me that big play every now and again, I think I'd take John Brown. I'd lean towards Snead just based on, I'd like that consistency of a guy who can have, 4 to 6 catches a game and can be a bigger part of that offense and see some more opportunities. So that's where I would go. But I could definitely see both arguments. I think both of them have potential to have that value there for a fantasy wide receiver. That's obviously, I mean, like you guys said, ADP wise, you're getting them for nothing.
So I just want to get one last note in on Snead here before we keep beating this horse. The 2 years he did produce in New Orleans, he was over 100 targets. So unless you think he's kind of getting up to that, don't expect his any return to his New Orleans production.
you don't have to draft him.
Yeah,
Like,
I
you
wouldn't.
can put watch list. I think John Brown could be, depending on how late your best ball leagues go, could be an okay late round best ball draft pick.
So my note on both was not ranked, watch list at best for both.
Yep.
All right. Last player I want to talk about on the Ravens before we get to our beer review here, Hayden Hurst. Coming in looking like he is going to be the tight end one in an offense that heavily features the tight end position. Hopper looks like he's going to puke to my left, so as usual, he'll kick us off.
Yeah, I don't agree with it. I think Mark Andrews is a better tight end. I think his training camp goes on, that the hype centers around him a bit more. He's younger. He's a better blocker. I think that maybe you see an Adam Shaheen, Trey Burton light type of situation where they just cut into each other enough, but I don't see a scenario where Hayden Hurst is just it. He doesn't block well enough to just be it. He's not Dennis Pitta.
He's got the first round capital to him. I know that, but he's also a rookie tight end. So, I'm not putting any faith in any of these tight ends to begin with. But Hurst is versatile. When you watch his film, he lined up as a fullback, lined up as a, inline tight end, lined up as a move tight end. Something that Andrews played mostly a move tight end role. I prefer Hurst in redraft, but I prefer Andrews in Dynasty. But I wouldn't take either of them this year anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Hey, we're going deep. We know.
I know.
We are in a 2 tight end dynasty league.
Hurst could.
There we go.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with what was just said. Yeah, if I'm in a redraft, I'm taking Hurst. In a dynasty, I'm taking Andrews. I think Andrews has the higher upside, and I think for fantasy purposes, I think what he does kind of fits a little bit more to what you're looking for. You're looking for obviously pass catching and touchdowns, that sort of thing. I kind of just feel like he's going to end up being on the field more as things go. But there is an argument to be made. Hey, the draft capital was spent on Hayden Hurst. They're going to give him every opportunity to win that job. So I think early on, you probably see Hayden Hurst an awful lot out there.
It was stupid.
He's been.
We don't
drafted
disagree, but it's too late now, so we're going to roll with what we have.
Yeah.
Can't go back.
Thanks,
It's too late.
Baltimore.
All right. Enough about Baltimore.
Yeah.
Sure.
How do we think they're going to finish?
Uh,
You said 9-7.
That was a homer pick.
8-8.
8-8 probably.
I got them for 6-10. I don't like this team.
Yeah, I am at 4-12. I am really low on this team. So
Is that
yeah.
because you're just really mad, being a Browns fan?
No, as a matter of fact,
I'm kidding.
honestly, I'm a Steelers basher. So the Ravens really don't stir my ire up quite as much as the Steelers. But I can't get behind Joe Flacco this year. I can't get behind some of these weapons. I'm taking a hard pass on this team, but I definitely think defensively they have potential. So who knows? We'll see if they can parlay that into some more wins.
I mean, I can't get behind Joe Flacco or most of his wide receivers any year, and they still somehow find a way to be in the back end of the wild card race most of the time.
That's
so
a good point. That's a good point.
They'll disappoint me like they always do, at least
right.
since 2012.
All right. You know what doesn't disappoint you?
beer reviews?
Beer reviews.
Beer review.
So what do you guys think of Great Lakes Brewing Company's second appearance on the show with Holy Moses White Ale?
Kind of reminds me more like a Hefeweizen than a white ale. It's got a lot. That orange peel, I think, gives it kind of a weeded taste almost, and it's got a little bit of citrusy, I think, from the orange, and then it finishes slightly peppery.
I think if you like white ales, this is fine. I'm not a huge fan. I'm not a huge fan of wheat, and then was it peach slice?
Orange.
Orange
Orange.
slice. It just kind of gives it more of the wheat taste, but it's definitely drinkable, even if I don't like white ales in general,
It's very drinkable.
which
No,
is good.
I'm actually a big fan of wheats, even though we don't have them on the show that often. And this is a excellent one for a larger production variety. In the heat here in the studio right now, this is awesome.
Yes, and I love the can art. I guess the bottle art. I did post it on Instagram, so you guys want to go back and check that out
At Beerfield FF.
at
And
Beerfield FF.
as a reminder to get the review in writing and follow along with all of our beer
Yes.
reviews, Beerfield FF on Untapped. We are there now.
All right.
Real cool. I didn't know you guys were there. Hey, real quick. All right, guys, I'm doing a first ever. I don't think I've ever heard this. I heard your beer review, and it sounds fantastic. I'm going to have to go try it from Great Lakes Brewing. But I want to let you know I wasn't able to find that beer, and I really wanted to do this with you guys because I think this is such a cool segment. But I wanted to let you know that I am having a Bitter Woman from it's an IPA from Tyranina here in Wisconsin, and I'm not sure if you guys have had it on or not, but Tyranina has some excellent brews. Bitter Woman is one of my favorites, but they have several others. I would suggest
We had
Tyranina
sheep.
I've had their Black Hawk Porter, I think, and I've had the Bitter Woman.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay.
And
all right,
I don't know that either of them have been on the show, but I've drinking them on my own, and they do very good work. I think we did have them on the show once.
We definitely had them on them. Just
I don't remember which one it was.
You're looking at the beer consumed.
it was Sheep Shagger Scotch Ale.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I love the Sheep Shagger.
Yes,
I remember.
it just came back to me. We're all very happy.
He was very excited about the
Yes.
Sheep Shagger.
It was Sheep
was
Shagger.
really good.
All right.
He's not one of us. He's a dirty sheep shagger.
All right.
No? Okay.
Speaking of that, should we move on to the Browns?
Oh,
Hey, now.
Yikes.
My grandpa may listen to the show, too. He
Good. We need
doesn't.
the download.
That's right.
All right. So let's move on to the Browns here. Coming off in 1-31 over the last two seasons here, but we like what they did over the off seasons. We've commented on a couple times. Just kind of quick introduction. What do we think of how they've kind of set themselves up here? Should we expect moderate improvement, significant improvement, staying the same? What are we expecting out of the Browns?
I think James should kick us off.
Let's go, James.
Yeah, go ahead, James.
Oh man!
Take
All right.
it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I tell you what, I have never been an optimistic Browns fan because every time I tried that in the past, it didn't work out so well, guys. And so it's difficult for me because while I really like a lot of the moves that they did in the offseason. I like bringing in Todd Haley first off. I love bringing in some of the signings with Tyrod Taylor. I think he's a startable quarterback in this league. Jarvis Landry, obviously that move was great. I really liked some of the pieces that they picked up in the draft, like Nick Chubb. Fixing parts of that offensive line, I think is going to be crucial. But honestly, man, I can't get behind Hugh Jackson. This is the main problem for me is I wouldn't have had a problem as much with the Baker Mayfield pick if it wasn't for the fact that Hugh Jackson is still there. So my grand scheme of things, I really like what the Browns have done in the offseason, but the one glaring weakness was they didn't get a new head coach.
Yeah, agreed. He and Marvin Lewis should have both been fired, which we'll get to them momentarily.
If they could have drafted a head coach at 101, I think they would have.
That would have been a better move. And then do quarterback at 104.
I love Baker Mayfield, but it would have been a new coach.
All right. Well, let's get into Tyrod Taylor and Baker Mayfield then. Kicking it off with Taylor, he was 25th in points per game last year, which is the lowest he'd had in the previous 3 seasons. Weapons were terrible, though, in Buffalo. He comes in, gets an immediate upgrade here with the Browns. For me, he comes in at 27th in my rankings, but that's strictly because I don't think he finishes the whole season. His weekly ranking for me will be higher than that. So if you want to grab somebody and stream them, you would have my endorsement on that. How do you guys feel?
I've got him at 24th, so I'm about there with you. I like Tyrod Taylor. I like Tyrod Taylor with these weapons. We saw what he could do when he had the bare minimum of Sammy Watkins and Charles Clay in Buffalo. He made himself a quarterback 1. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's got the upside with his legs. I don't know how long he's a starter, though, with Baker Mayfield there. I think Baker Mayfield and his game style is, one, it's wishful thinking because I think it's the best for fantasy and getting multiple pieces involved. But 2, I just ultimately think it's their best option to win. I like Tyrod Taylor. I think he's a great bridge quarterback. I think that he at least keeps them competitive enough to win games. We saw it in Buffalo. I don't know how long he holds off Mayfield, though.
I like if Mayfield wasn't the 101, I think he could have, but Tyrod's got an uphill climb. If he struggles at all, if the Browns struggle at all, Tyrod has to be above and beyond. He has to be almost at Alex Smith level, I think, to keep away the Baker Mayfield from management, from the fans. I think he's going to get on. At what point is who knows? But just as Nick said, I think he's a weekly streamer each week just because he's safe, just because he gets you the rushing yards, and the rushing touchdowns every now and then, and he's smart with the football.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you guys. I think I have Tyrod Taylor ranked 20th, and for the same reasons you guys said, I don't know how long he can hold off Baker Mayfield. It really depends on, I think, the record of this team and the direction that they're heading in. But I will say this. It's really interesting looking back at the offseason when the Browns pick up Tyrod Taylor. That should have been, honestly, at least in my eyes, that should have been a really big hint as to what they were thinking come draft day, because Tyrod Taylor is an excellent bridge quarterback for Baker Mayfield. They won't have to really do much differently offensively. Baker Mayfield can throw on the run. That's what Tyrod does. He can extend plays. I feel like they're similar in a sense. And so I think when you kind of look back at it, it's really interesting seeing that they took Tyrod Taylor. It kind of gave us a window into what they were thinking into the draft. And I don't think any of us really picked, at least I didn't pick up on it, even as a Browns fan, until pretty much draft day when it was kind of leaked that, yeah, it looks like it's going to be Baker Mayfield here. But, just an interesting observation. And I think you guys are right. I echo your sentiments on that quarterback situation.
Yeah, I'm not sure it was necessarily that they grabbed Taylor because they were thinking Mayfield at that point. I think it was Taylor was kind of what they want this offense to look like. And then as they started evaluating Mayfield and deciding they liked him, they thought he was also a good fit. So I'm not sure if that was necessarily tipping the hand, but we had an idea of what they wanted this offense to do.
Worked out really well.
Yeah, it did.
Both fit the offense great.
They almost traded for Nick Foles.
Yeah.
There is that rumor where they're going to give it the 201 or pick 33 for him. So,
but thank God they screwed up the AJ McCarron trade.
Yeah, right. And thank God Philly said no.
Yep. So that's enough about Taylor. If Mayfield does get in, which we expect he probably will at some point based on our rankings, where would he be in your weekly streamer rankings with these weapons?
I can't say no. There's just so much that, it depends when. It depends on who's hurt, who's not
Mayfield
hurt.
gets to start week 1.
Mayfield starts week 1.
I think low end streamer status until we see more.
So QB 18 to 20.
Sure. If not a little bit lower.
No, that's where I'd put him. That's about where I had Trubisky running at last year, and I think that, similar throwing mobile quarterbacks that ran primarily shotgun and offense that were extremely accurate. Yeah, I'd have him about there too.
With better weapons, though.
But with better weapons, yes.
I'm looking at the Browns schedule. It's daunting to start out.
It's brutal. Yeah.
You get Pittsburgh in week 1. You get at New Orleans week 2. You get the Jets at home in week 3. Then you get at the Raiders week 4. Ravens and Chargers 5 and 6 at home, and then you get at Tampa Bay and at Pittsburgh's week 7 and 8. I mean, Tyrod could be benched at any point.
I mean, I don't
outside
hate
of week 4.
I don't hate those Pittsburgh matchups, and I don't hate the Jets and Raiders. So there's a couple good matchups there.
There are.
I'm saying just for
I
when
think they
Tyrod could get pulled.
Oh, from them losing?
Just that's the only reason I brought that up. It's not because of the games in terms of fantasy, but just when Tyrod could get pulled.
Yeah, after 2 losses to the Steelers, I could see that happening.
Shit, after if they lose to Oakland and
They're not
Ravens
losing to the Steelers twice. They're going to beat them once.
at home, week 1.
Sticking
Let's
to
go,
that?
baby.
Yep.
All right. Moving on to the running back trio of Carlos Hyde, Nick Chubb, and Duke Johnson, who just got his tasty extension.
Yikes.
Who do you like the best for fantasy
All right,
purposes?
so
Duke Johnson, because I know his role.
I'll give you guys their ADP right now. Hyde is 701, Johnson's 807, and Chubb is 902.
At that price, Johnson all day.
Johnson, like, he's the safest of the 3. You know his role. He just got paid. He's not going to see RB1 type of numbers. He's not going to see the 94 targets again, but he's fantastic at what he does. He was 4th in juke rate at 32.7%, 3rd in yards per touch at 6.7, and he was 4th in receptions and 3rd in receiving yards. So that's his role, and that's what he's going to continue doing very well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of agree with you guys. I think after this contract extension, now it's really interesting because before this contract extension, Duke Johnson would have been 3rd for me. I would have really felt like he was the guy on the outside looking in, and they really wouldn't utilize him very much, knowing that he probably wasn't going to be back. But no, I think you guys are right. Now that I know that he's going to be part of their future, I think they plan on utilizing him a lot in the passing game, and I think we've seen that in the Todd Haley run offense. That's a pretty valuable role.
Yep. And then I think I would have it Johnson, Chubb, Hyde.
Yep.
Especially at the price.
I'm not
Yeah.
touching Hyde at all this year.
I think if the price was even between Chubb and Hyde, I'd probably take Hyde, but it'd be close. But if I have to pay 2 rounds cheaper,
I
to
do
get
expect
Chubb,
Hyde to keep falling. I do expect Hyde to follow. Like even after this contract extension, after the Nick Chubb hype, continues to rise through the OTAs and training camp, I expect it to be more evened out towards.
yeah.
August.
If they flip and Hyde's going in the 9th round, then I'll be intrigued.
Yeah, a little bit, not much,
And not a lot, a little bit.
a little bit.
All right, enough about the running game, which I think is not going to be super fantasy relevant this year. Receiving game, Jarvis Landry, Josh Gordon leading the billing. Where do you got those 2 ranked in your initial or way too early rankings in Hopper's case?
So go ahead, Dan. I got to look.
Landry's my 20th. Gordon's my 28th. It's been no, there's no hiding. I'm not super high on Josh Gordon. I love Jarvis Landry more. I like Landry more in this offense. There's been hype about him lining up as an outside receiver, giving him more touches. When you pay a guy top 5 receiver bill in the league, you're going to have to use him more than just out of the slot. And Landry, that's fantastic for him. He should have a higher target depth, which means more big plays. He's third in the league in yak, and he had 9 touchdowns. I don't think that's going to be the case this year, but I think given this offense and the potential for red zone work, you could see similar to 6 to 7 to 8 touchdowns.
I've got Landry at 14. That will likely fade a little bit just based on target volume after I looked at a little bit more what I looked at today. I've got Gordon at 39. That'll also, that may stay close. And here's the reason
I love it. I do.
I did not expect to be the highest on Gordon.
So, looking at Tyrod Taylor, who I have to assume is a starter right now, and I have to assume that even if Mayfield starts, they'll protect him. So, with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, 96 is the most targets that any wide receiver has gotten. That was Sammy Watkins. Landry is typically feasted off of volume, off 120, 130 targets. He's not going to get that. My other issue with Josh Gordon is just that Tyrod Taylor doesn't support multiple wide receivers. The tight end was the leading target getter, in his tenure at Buffalo. Leading target getters, wide receiver twice, tight end once, running back once. And his tight end was never worse than second in targets. I don't have a lot of faith in the second wide receiver in this offense, especially Tyrod as a starter. And to me, that is Josh Gordon. Jarvis Landry is more of a sure thing, safe bet, and they went out and paid him.
All right.
And then you look at their ADP. I'm sorry, just before you guys go. Gordon's 402, Landry's 507. Give me Landry all day.
Oh, Landry all day if Gordon's
yeah.
going that high.
Sorry.
And that's
You
in
guys can go.
PPR?
Yes. That's what I said. I was
jeez.
like, I had to go and check. I'm like, did I click standard by accident? No, it says PPR. I mean, people fucking love Josh Gordon to a point where you're seeing articles now saying sell Josh Gordon. We've been saying sell Josh Gordon for a long time now.
I mean, yeah, and the issue with drafting him in the 4th is you never know if you can trust him all season, too.
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to be that guy.
Yes, please.
I'm going to be that guy because I have Josh Gordon ranked 21st in my rankings, and I have Jarvis Landry ranked 29th. And I definitely, some of the arguments you guys make are very interesting, and I'm going to have to go back and kind of look at target share and seeing how some of these, Tyrod hasn't had a wide receiver too that's been that valuable, and I didn't really know that when I did my rankings. However, I will say this, the one thing that I think Tyrod does really well is extend plays and go deep. And I feel like that is going to benefit Josh Gordon way more than Jarvis Landry. I think Jarvis Landry is kind of that intermediate guy who's going to get open over the middle. He's going to win with route running. He's not going to win with speed more times than not. Josh Gordon is built to do that. And so I feel like with the improvisational skills or the improvising skills that Tyrod Taylor has, I think it's going to benefit Josh Gordon. And maybe I'm wrong on that, but I really feel like maybe Josh Gordon doesn't get the amount of receptions Jarvis Landry does, but I feel like the big plays are going to be there enough to make up for that. It's hard to rely on that week to week, and so that's why I wouldn't rely on Josh Gordon as anything more than a back end wide receiver too. But I'll take Gordon over Landry. Not at that. I mean, I don't think I'm taking him in the 4th round, but I'm probably taking him somewhere in the 5th. So yeah, I guess I'll be the naysayer there, and I'll take Gordon over Landry, but you guys definitely bring up some good points. Maybe something for me to look into a little bit more.
I kind of split the difference. I got Landry at 20 and Gordon at 25, so I'm kind of in the middle on both of them.
I wouldn't touch either of them before the 5th round.
Yeah,
I think this is going to be like the targets are going to be spread between the both of them. I think Landry does nudge them just because of depends how they want to use them, but I think Landry does nudge Gordon a bit in targets.
All right. Moving on to the 3rd and 4th fiddle on this team, Corey Coleman and Antonio Callaway. Any thoughts on them?
If Coleman gets traded, let's go back to this question.
We will discuss that if it happens.
I think he's blocked right now, not just behind Gordon and Landry, but behind Njoku and potentially Duke Johnson, which I don't really know why, because Coleman's done pretty well when he's been healthy for Cleveland, but Cleveland just doesn't want him there. They're trying to move in. They're trying to move him. They try to move him on draft day. They've been trying to move him all off season. So at this point, I think he's blocked from any real fantasy relevance.
There's 3 options that I want to own on this team. They're Jarvis Landry, Duke Johnson, and David Njoku. And that's it.
All right.
I don't want Gordon. I think Njoku's the second target getter.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of, and I know we haven't gotten to tight end yet, but I think we're all kind of
it's a good transition.
Talk about Njoku because I think the receivers 3 and 4 are even less appealing than obviously the top 2, and I don't know that any of us are all that high in the top 2 to be honest. Maybe I guess there is some Landry love out there, but I don't know that anyone thinks there's a wide receiver 1 on this team.
No, I mean, with Taylor, there's just not going to be enough passing volume there.
No.
All right, let's move on to Njoku.
So Charles Clay's career low with Tyrod is 74 targets while missing games. It was 5.7 per game. That volume plus Tyrod Taylor being more accurate, I mean, that's 5.7 a game, I think works out to roughly 92 targets for, I mean, there's going to be another tight end that gets some of those or some targets, but I mean, so 75 to 80 targets for Njoku is reasonable. And I mean, that puts him at 500 plus yards plus 5-6 touchdowns given his size.
Which makes you a back end tight end 1.
Which makes you a back end tight end 1, exactly.
Which is where I have him ranked.
So, and Njoku's, and his current ADP, by the way,
1307. Sorry.
All day.
I didn't know if you wrote him down. I thought you were asking.
Yep.
I was getting excited.
Nope, all day. I will take him in the 13th round all day.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite late round flyers for tight ends, which I agree you should be doing this year. Don't reach on the top 8, which I think will all be reached on.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's if one of the top guys slides, that or just wait and grab 2 and try to hope you get 1.
Speaking to the point, he has Tyrod loves using his tight ends. Tyrod gets benched. Brandon Baker Mayfield, who was his leading receiver last year.
Mark Andrews,
a tight end. So they both like using their tight ends. And Njoku is ridiculously athletic, which is going to build very well in the red zone and on big plays. And I expect the Browns to see more red zone opportunities than last year. I don't know what it was, but I expect it to be higher.
Yeah, no, I agree. And first off, a couple points here. First of all, you guys saying Najoku is fantastic. That I don't have to correct anyone. So
I think I learned from your guys' show how to say his name.
Soda vodka. Swoboda.
Yeah, that's right.
is-
Soda Koutoulas.
is who taught me.
yeah, Svoboda's great, good guy. Najoku is. I agree. I could not agree more with the fact that I'm waiting on tight end this year. The top guys are pretty risky. I mean, I've got concerned about those. So getting a guy like Najoku that late in the draft, absolutely sign me up. I'll take him and I'll take a flyer on another late guy and just hope that between the two, I have one startable tight end. But getting back to Najoku a little bit, this offense isn't. I mean, they're not opposed to throwing the ball to the tight end, especially Big Ben's first couple of years in this system. They used Heath Miller a ton in this system his first few years. So I think that this is something that, Tyrod can actually use to use that security blanket in this offense. I think Najoku definitely gets a lot of targets.
Yeah, and not to hit on Heath Miller, but Najoku is significantly more talented.
So is Vance McDonald. So
I've been looking to pair Najoku with guys like
Tyler
Ebron, ASJ, Eifert, Kittle, guys who I can grab super late and just hope one of them hits.
you draft one, you pick one up afterwards.
Yep.
All right, let's hit the Bengals. Actually, thoughts on record for the Browns before we hit the Bengals?
Oh, man.
I said 5-11 just because it's hard to have faith.
Does that
in
get
them.
Hugh Jackson fired?
Yeah, it
I
does.
think he gets fired after the first few weeks. I think after they go 1-5, 1-6.
And Todd Haley's interim.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I really want them to kind of go 5-11 so he gets fired, and that makes me think they're going to go 8-8 and he's going to stay on, which is what I have them pegged for because it just seems like that's as a Browns fan that's going to happen. So I kind of hope you guys are right. I hope Ed is that.
And then they pull off his mask and it's Jeff Fisher.
I was going to say, I was just about to ask
gonna
who
say
was the 8-8 quarterback. That's right. It's Jeff Fisher. I knew it the whole time. I would have gotten away with it. Wasn't for you pesky kids.
It wasn't for that dang Erie Lake Erie.
Yeah, and I think sadly that if they finish like in that 7-9, 8-8 range, it'll be fighting for second place in this division.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be.
It's going to be gross.
All right, and team we think is probably going to finish last. We do have the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they're going to look a little bit more competent than last year, but I still think they have some serious issues with the overall team here. Just quick overview. What do we think of the Bengals kind of fantasy-wise? Is there anything that stands out to you guys?
I mean, obviously, A.J. Green, the only other things that I had written down to talk about and were Joe Mixon and Tyler Eifert.
Joe Mixon, it's hard to argue that Joe Mixon is going to be fantastic this year because advanced metrics really fucking hated him. He had one good thing. Yeah, it's like his 1.4, it's 1.54 yards per carry. Yards created per carry is the only top thing he did, and that was 13th in the league last year.
It was,
but I still love him.
I will give you this, though. He was over 4 yards a carry in 5 of his last 6 games. When you look at the second half of his season, it didn't hate him. He was actually okay. He started off slow. The learning curve was there. The offensive line was terrible. So, advanced metrics, nothing loved him the first part of the season.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to skew those
numbers. First contact for
numbers.
Joe Mixon was it was closer to the line of scrimmage than any other running back with at least 100 carries. So he was getting hit early, and he still broke a bunch of tackles. So, I mean, there's definitely something there, and the fact that they signed Cordy Glenn and drafted Billy Price is interesting too. I'm a little higher on this team than I think most are. It's kind of a sleeper team for me.
I'm kind of the same way now after doing some deep diving because I think Dalton's going to have a positive regression, at least back to more of his norms. He also posted a 5.0 touchdown rate, which I think was the 4th time in his career, but he had a 2.4 interception rate. But in terms of his 16-game career lows, it was all lows in completion percentage, and yards. I think you'll see with the better offensive line, with hopefully more consistent offensive play calling instead of changing offensive coordinators 2 games into the season, Dalton may actually be more of a mid-end streamer instead of the avoid at all costs.
Yeah, I also think that Mixon sees more than 12.7 carries a game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which will help Dalton.
Yeah. So where do you got Mixon in your ranking since we've been talking about him here?
12.
Ooh.
He's 301 right now in ADP and PPR leagues.
15.
I got him at 14.
I am at 15 as well.
So it looks like we all like him as high running back 2, low running back 1 range. I would be I would not be shocked at all if he does slip in as a low-end RB1 this year. I think he's got the talent, and this team, I think, is fixing some of the issues that'll help him have a good season here. For me, the bigger issue with the Bengals is just general coaching and scheme and some other things like that. But I think they can feed a running back.
Yeah, I think so too. And then Tyler Eifert is Jordan Reed.
Okay, we'll get to his back in a moment.
Yeah.
What do you think about Gio?
Yeah.
If Mixon wasn't a good pass catcher, I'd be more excited. But
It's Marvin
Gio
Lewis.
struggled last year against light fronts, which he saw, I think, 62% of the time.
It's interesting because any other team that
63.
has the issues the Bengals had, at least last year, would have found a way to get Gio the ball in space, and it didn't seem like they made an effort to do that. Yeah, this is a guy who you can motion out of the backfield, and he's an immediate mismatch on a linebacker. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how they use him if Cincinnati evolves at all offensively. And if so, he could definitely be in line for a decent year. But if they use him the same way they did last year, I don't know that I'm too high on him either.
Yeah, I mean, he was 42nd in points per game last year, and that was including a few blow-up weeks when Mixon was hurt. So yeah, I've got him 45th in my rankings. It's kind of a fringe
He's my 46.
flex type play.
His ADP is 11-12.
That's about right.
Yeah.
All right. So Dalton, where do you guys have him in your rankings before we go to the wide receivers?
25.
76.
I'm at 23.
Yeah, 25.
28, actually.
25 as well, just because, and as we're going to talk about in a moment here, I only like one of his weapons that I can count on to stay healthy, and that's AJ Green. The rest
Even
of his
Green you really can't count on sometimes. He tends to miss
I
games
have one of
every
his
now and then.
weapons I can count on to be productive. Well, two if they're healthy. Tyler Eifert.
yeah,
Well,
as we've
Tyler Kroft is...
he's a guy.
He did okay with Eifert gone.
He caught a few touchdowns.
got 7 of them.
He wasn't fantastic. Tyler Kroft gets a lot of cachet because Tyler Eifert's always hurt, and you're like, well, he's going to be the guy, but that... So...
I mean, he
was
he had
Brandon
7 touchdowns
So
last
was
year. It's
Brandon
pretty good.
LaFell. And unless AJ Green's hurt and the Brandon LaFell rule's invoked.
All right. Let's get to AJ Green and Brandon LaFell here.
Why Brandon
Why?
LaFell? Green we'll talk about.
I don't want to talk about any of them.
What do you guys think of AJ Green?
I think he's value right now at 208.
I think you draft him, and that's the only person you draft here
Yeah,
You
I
draft
agree.
him.
from the wide receiver core. You draft AJ Green.
All right, and then
Take him, and that's it.
I put on Brandon LaFell. He needs multiple injuries to invoke the Brandon LaFell rule on him this year.
He does, and John Ross is terrible, and Tyler Boyd is something.
He ruins
and
Ravens' dreams, as all Tyler Boyd does.
Josh Malone flashed a little bit.
So he's a dynasty dart throw, and that's it.
Yeah.
All right, Tyler Eifert, as you mentioned, he's always hurt. If he's healthy, I would have him as a great dart throw, but
Oh, yeah, he's double-digit touchdowns and 600 yards if he's healthy.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
And that's when he only plays 13 games.
all right.
Yeah,
He likes him so much his voice is cracking.
I think
a
he's
healthy
also.
season is 13 games.
We were also
Tyler.
sweating our ass off.
I think he's overheating too. We may
Yeah.
need to get Hopper another beer. All right. I think that puts a bow on the Bengals here. I think this team's not going to be very cohesive. I think they're going to flash and they're going to start trending in the right direction, but I'm not sure Dalton is long-term answer. And the only 2 players I really trust is Mixon and Green.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's enough for the AFC North. Sorry for going a little long in this episode. We ended up about an hour 10.
Hour 8.
Okay, pretty close.
Hour 10 by the time you're done talking, I'm sure.
All right. So just going through all the social media stuff as usual. We're at BeerfieldFF on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped now.
Beerfield
Question mark?
FF on Untapped.
Yes, we are. Go ahead and catch us all there. Individually, I'm at Nick Sparts. We got Dan Thury rocking the Ravens jersey across the table from me.
At 30 BFF.
To my left is Christopher Hopper.
At Hot BFF with 2 P's and on the phone.
We got James.
That was your cue.
Oh, that was my cue. Yeah. At _ James the Brain on Twitter.
And representing the at SuperFlex Show on Twitter, part of DLF.
Yep.
I was expecting you to go a little bit more there. All right. Just a reminder, we are still doing the Dynasty Listener League signups. If you guys want to try to hit us up for that, go to beerfieldfantasy@gmail.com. You can sign up one of 3 ways. Screenshot of you leaving a review for us on iTunes, a screenshot of you subscribe to our YouTube channel, or a screenshot of you liking us on Facebook. All 3 of those will get you in. We have enough to fill a 12-team league right now, but I want some more entries to turn this into a drawing I can stream on YouTube.
Yeah, we're going to do a selection Sunday, so keep sending your entries in. Probably keep it open until End of July-ish, I would think, right?
No, end of June.
Dynasty into June.
End of June?
Yeah, because it'll take a month or so. to
Oh,
draft.
right.
We're doing
I'm
slow,
starting the redraft shit at the beginning of July.
and we're doing a slow auction, so it'll take a bit.
You're slow. You're a slow auction.
One,
All right.
One quick shout out to all the ones leaving reviews on iTunes. Thank you so much. They're fucking
Keep them coming.
Yeah,
badass.
we're up to 22. It's awesome.
We totally appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening, guys. We'll catch you next time with the NFC North.
Next time.
Which is why I'm rocking the Vikings jersey. And then we'll catch you guys
Next time
on Beerfield Fantasy Football.
Bye.
See ya.